Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the presence of the greatest Classic Physique Olympia champion of all time, Dubai. Let's make some noise for the one, the only, Chris Bumstead. Wow, wow, wow. So, Chris, back here in Dubai, and I have to imagine as you travel around the world, meet with your fans, meet with fans of bodybuilding, of fitness, this never gets old in terms of the interactions that you have with them, and when you meet them and they tell you their own personal stories, their own fitness journeys. What does that mean to you to know that you played somewhat of a role in their betterment journeys?
I mean, it's definitely an honor. My whole career, I definitely took it as a responsibility, especially now being a father. I realize, hey, is that better? Can you hear me? Yeah, throughout my career, I realized I started to learn it with a heavy responsibility when I started to see not so positive role models that were influencing people to do not so positive things. And then having a family myself, I was like, there's an impact I'm having, and I'm honored and grateful for it, very humbled by it. Sometimes I have no idea why people are looking up and following me, but I always appreciated it. And when I meet someone young who was able to change their life, transform something, do something they never thought they could imagine they could have done, saying thanks to me somehow, even though they did all the work themselves, it was always an honor, and it filled me with motivation and a strong responsibility just to be the best version of myself and to share that as best as I could with people.
You know, there was a cool moment this past Olympia, and I do want to get your recollections of your first Olympia, not as a competitor, but there was a cool moment before the Olympia press conference where champions, yourself, Phil Heath, Flex Lewis, were brought onto the stage as a scene setter for the Olympia press conference, and you were asked what the Olympia title meant to you, and what did it mean when you had these interactions and they see you as a Classic Physique Mr. Olympia, and what that title did to ascend your ranks in their eyes. Somebody asked me the other day, they were like, why is Chris Bumstead so popular, or why is he this popular? Okay, yeah, he's a great champion, good-looking guy, dynastic champion, but what makes him this popular? My simple answer, and I'd like you to expand on this, is that very relatable. Despite the level of popularity that you've achieved, I've seen you go from, in 2019 when you won your first title at the Meet the Olympians, you had a very short line in front of you, in front of your table. Fast forward to your last Olympia, there was a 90-minute line for you at the Meet the Olympians. What do you attribute as far as why people look up to you and find relatability in you?
It's really hard for me to answer that because I still really have no idea why, but I would say a big thing that I learned was I displayed confidence in my own way. I truly believe confidence is like, it's reality, it's honesty with yourself and with others. And when I was going through my journey and I had moments of fear or doubt or where I didn't believe in myself, I would share those with people. And I wasn't that bodybuilder who was like, I know I'm gonna win, I always feel great, I'm gonna go dominate X, Y, and Z. I had moments where I didn't feel like that, but where I still had to show up and do the work anyways. And I think people were able to see that in me and being like, wow, this guy who is on stage seemingly untouchable by failure or whatever it may be after winning 6 Olympias, still has these struggles and still has to push through. And to admit that while competing towards something, I've literally read books by psychologists and champions who literally said a champion never has doubt. And I was like, well, fuck, I guess I'm not a champion, you know? But the reality is a champion is what a champion does, you know? That's what champion mentality was all about when I would speak about that. It's about showing up, being honest with yourself, putting in the best work that you can do in the moment, and constantly chasing progress. And I shared as much as I could in my journey with that, because for me, confidence was being honest with myself. And someone who came from a bit of a social anxiety background, if I was trying to put on a facade for people talking and make up some stuff about how I didn't really feel inside, that created more stress and anxiety on me, which pulled away from my confidence. Whereas when I used to do a talk on stage, I'd get on stage and be like, I'm nervous as hell, I'm anxious, I don't know what the hell I'm saying. And just being honest like that would make me calm down and feel better. So that was kind of the theme of my entire journey that I shared. And I would assume that that was just that honesty. People were like, me too, you know? Maybe it's at work on a Zoom call. You're like, open up a Zoom call, you have to do a presentation, you're anxious before. It's like, yeah, me too, every time I get on stage and do something. That's reality, though. There's no part in life where you wait for that anxiety to be gone to start. You have to start with it and work through it and then accept it. Maybe it surrenders, maybe it doesn't, but it's just a part of life.
You know, doubling down on the champion mentality and, you know, your journey, your own personal development, one thing that was very obvious when you won your first Classic Physique Olympia title to your last, your ability to elocute on stage immensely improved. Your ability to communicate with the audience, your ability to put your thoughts into words. And there is one quote, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said it, I believe, in the last Olympia, the one that you won, the one you retired rather, where you said, if you numb the good, you numb the bad. And you kind of took us into your personal journey and having to accept the bad in order to accept the good. And I think that was such a profound statement because that applies not only to bodybuilders, but to people in life, to everything that we're going through, that there is a good, there is a bad, and to have an acceptance of both. So if you want to expand a little bit more about that and really why that was such an important creed for your life.
Yeah, that was my second last Olympia where I said that, and I feel like I learned it again this year watching the Olympia as a spectator, seeing the people on stage and watching the moments where they come out and they're a little bit anxious and then they warm up and then they're put center stage and they build confidence and they get moved to the side and their shoulders drop, and that like feel of emotions alone like that, that's exciting because it's on stage, but those little moments happen all day without noticing, and to feel and to experience emotion is what it means to be human, in my opinion. And what I've realized now by sharing it, I wasn't alone in being someone who wasn't very good at understanding what my emotions were. I had like a disconnect of my mind and my body, and it took me out of being able to be present and enjoy moments with friends, with family. I was kind of stuck in my head, stressed or worried, rather than just being able to drop in and feel things emotionally. And I realized that it was because when tough times would come up, I wouldn't let myself drop into them. I wouldn't communicate with them. I wouldn't go to my wife and share how I was feeling, or with anybody really. And I was putting myself in a glass ceiling of pain I wanted to feel, but then there was also a floor and walls and everything preventing me to feel anything. So if you're numbing bad things in your life, you're numbing emotion in general. So then when the beautiful moments come, you can't enjoy those as much either. And when I won my first Olympia ever, it had been 22 years of trying not to feel anything bad and trying to run and hide from emotion. And I won the Olympia, this thing I'd been working for my whole life. I thought it would be the greatest feeling ever, and I just felt a little bit of relief and then like not much more, you know? And I was like, why am I doing this if not to feel so much beauty and love in this moment for something I worked so hard for? And then that became my journey along that career was, yes, winning and being the best bodybuilder in the world, but also becoming someone who could experience life, the human emotion, the highs and the lows. You know, if we all just felt neutral and calm and the false definition of stoic all of the time, life would be very boring. You know, what makes it fun is the unknown, the fear, the anxiety, the happiness, excitement, the relief, like all those highs and lows. And like I said, when I was watching the Olympia this year as a spectator and seeing people go through those moments, I was like, that's what I miss the most. It's just the feelings that you have, because again, it's what makes us human and what makes life so fun.
This past Olympia, I have to get inside your mind. What was it like to experience this Olympia? Obviously, we talked about the press conference, but then also there was a cool moment, I believe it was a Saturday night, where they brought you out, they gave you a commemorative award. So again, they made you a part of the Olympia, but not competing, being a spectator, and you've already expressed just seeing the emotions of the competitors on stage. But for yourself, what was that like? Was there a part of you that was itching to be out there? Was there a part of you just really sitting back and allowing you to enjoy the show? The range of emotions as you're watching Classic Physique, the prejudging and finals.
It was definitely an interesting range of emotion. I would say the biggest moment I had was, and I'm so grateful they let me do it, is I got to stand on stage as they announced the winner of Classic Physique. And I got to see them standing there, like close their eyes, waiting to hear their name. And I was like, I've been there for the last 8 years, sitting there, wondering if my name was going to be called. And now I'm on the sideline, fully clothed instead of 90% naked on stage, waiting in a different moment. And on stage, I was like, all right, this isn't your time. Just like be here and be present. But when I got off stage after watching Ramon drop to his knees and cry and be so happy and so emotional, I was so grateful for him. I had this like crazy mix of emotion. It was so much happiness for him. And one of the first thoughts I had when he dropped to his knees is he is so much happier winning this than I would have been winning my 7th. You know, I would have been like 6, 7, I got it. But him getting his first one that he's been working for his whole life, what he felt was like, I remember feeling that in my 2nd time, my 3rd time, and I was like, there's nothing better than that. And it was like a moment of closure. There was sadness that I wasn't there and I wasn't getting to experience, but it was more so overwhelming joy for him and gratitude that I got to experience that at all. And then a closure of being like, yes, I retired last year, but someone else is taking that crown now, and my time is over. And it really just showed me how lucky I was to have something that aligned so perfectly with my life, that gave me an opportunity to work so hard, that I cared so much, that led me to be so sad to leave it. You know, I wasn't sad that I couldn't be there. I was grateful that I was sad that I missed it, because it meant I loved it so much. And I think we all are seeking something that brings so much purpose and meaning into our life that we would dread to leave it, that we wouldn't want to miss it, so that we can enjoy it so much and that we can drive. You have to have a lot of passion for something to work so hard for years at one single goal. And I think there's few things more beautiful than that. You know, under parenting, having children, you know, it's a little bit below that, of course, a lot below that. But it's just it was such a beautiful thing to bring meaning into my life. And without something that you're so passionate about to work that hard for, I feel like it's really hard to discover like who you are. You push yourself to new limits. You learn a lot about yourself, and it was just a moment of closure for me standing on that stage, and a lot of gratitude for all the moments and emotions and memories I had up there.
You know, there was so much talk going into this Classic Physique Olympia that who is going to be that next title bearer? Who is Chris Bumstead going to be passing the torch to? Well, you saw the pure elation, the emotion that Ramon Dino displayed when his name was called, and there are a lot of pictures of you sharing a moment with him backstage. What in particular can you share about what you told him about the responsibility of this title, maybe how happy you were for him to finally achieve the dream that he's been working for so long, and a moment that obviously you can relate to? What can you share about that moment where you passed the torch to Ramon Dino?
I mean, Ramon doesn't really speak very good English, so it wasn't a deep conversation. I think there's a deep understanding you have from someone that doesn't need to be communicated about when you've done something similar and you've poured your heart and soul into something, and you've stood on stage, and, you know, like, year after year we were friends, but also when we were on that stage it was like, I'm gonna kick your ass, and he's like, I'm gonna kick your ass, you know? We would never say anything out loud. We were smiling, kind to each other, but we were like, I'm here to fucking win, you know? So I think what was said was more so not through words. You know, Ramon has thanked me in his ways for what I was able to do for the sport, and we both mutually understand that because we were working so hard, we made ourselves better bodybuilders. I was better because of him, and he was better because of me, and it was like a mutual appreciation for the ability that we had to push ourselves to be better, because without competition, it's harder to continue to push yourself. So it was a moment of gratitude. I told him I was proud of him. I said, thank you for giving me this moment of being able to watch you and enjoy it, hold it well, and I hope he wins again next year.
Let's talk about your personal development over the arc of your championship run. When people see you, as they do with many successful people, it's often the misconception is that they have it easy, that the road is easy, the path is easy. It never is easy. For you to achieve what you achieved, the challenges you faced along the way, as you mentioned Ramon and all the other top Classic Physique competitors that stood in your way, and everything that you had to do over your 6-year run to keep them at bay. Battling health issues, no doubt battling episodes of doubt in your mind. What continued to drive you? What did you learn about yourself, and what did you have to evolve about yourself in order to stay on top as a champion?
It's funny, I'm still unraveling myself of what really drove me to continue to go, especially in a lot of those difficult times where I was ready to quit and something kept pushing in me. And I still don't think I've fully unraveled the answer. You know, it's something I'm still unraveling post-career, but what it evolved into was gratitude of like, yes, there were hard moments of, oh, this is difficult, but I'm a bodybuilder. Life is beautiful. Like the fact that this is what's difficult in my life and I get to chase after something I love and do that gratitude for it, knowing that I was doing something I loved continued to push me forward. And I think what gets a lot of people into bodybuilding is seeking some kind of validation in terms of like, all right, well, like something's missing in my life. If I can externally get it here, maybe when you're young, it's a little bit of attention from girls because you have more muscle, and then it becomes more and more and more. And what I kind of unraveled was there was a level of self-worth in myself that I was missing, and I thought I could find it outside of myself in anything external. And over the years, which is why honestly I was able to retire like I did, you start to realize, wait, 1 Olympia, 2 Olympia, 3 Olympia, 4 Olympia, 5 Olympia, you feel amazing on stage, it's so beautiful, but that void you might have in yourself of self-worth is not filled at all by that. You know, it's so beautiful, you can continue to get more wins and more money and more success and more things, but it doesn't keep getting better, you know? The beauty I started to learn of building a real relationship with my life, with my wife, discovering who I was and feeling the emotions, the highs and the lows, and being able to experience more of that in life and create a version of love for myself that didn't come from my performance and be able to separate the two from bodybuilding. That was kind of the biggest journey that I was on throughout it. So what started off as like seeking external validation essentially through bodybuilding and through my body was this exact thing that allowed me to realize it wasn't what I needed to feel full, so that I could begin to look elsewhere, to look inside, and to grow for that. So one of the most beautiful quotes I have from Jim Carrey is, I wish for everyone to achieve all their hopes and dreams so they can realize it's not what makes them full or fulfilled or whatever his final word is. And it's such a beautiful thing because it's so true. It's such a cheat code. It's like, if you think all these things are going to make you better, make you happy, and like, oh, I get my 7th Olympia and now I'm good enough because I have 7 Olympias, or I have 8, I have 9, I have more than anyone ever had. Like if you think that's going to happen, you'll be chasing that forever and you will be forever missing something in your life. Whereas learning that you're not going to find it outside of yourself, and then you can choose to do things out of pure love and enjoy them a lot more, which leads to a lot less stress and anxiety when you lose, or less pressure on yourself, and just allows for more enjoyment for life.
Well, speaking of love and finding purpose, you enter a chapter of your life as a father, as a family man. And, you know, we started to see some of the changes as far as where your mindset was at. There was one thing that stood out for me, and it was a beautiful moment. I believe it was about a year ago. You posted that you had a meeting that you were late for because your baby daughter was doing some cool shit in her crib, and that was way more important than anything else that you had going on. And to me, that just, again, we talk about relatability, and for those of us that are fathers, something we can relate with. That at that moment, you see your daughter doing something, nothing else in the world matters. Talk to us about this new chapter for you now as a family man, the purpose, and maybe some of the new layers that it has unlocked in you as far as finding your purpose, finding what truly makes you happy, and your new mission in life.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of moments like that over the last year and a half since my daughter's been born. I remember there was another moment where I was like feeding her before bed one night, and she fell asleep on my chest, and I had tears in my eyes because I was so grateful for the moment. And I was like, I feel more joy and love in my heart right now than when I win an Olympia, you know? And me being able to have that comparison, me being able to like understand, like, it's not like this is beautiful, what would it be like to win Olympia? It's like, no, I know both, and this is better, is something that's so beautiful. And even when I was at the Olympia this year and I was watching prejudging, and I was like, fuck, I could beat him, I could win, I could beat that guy, and I was watching like that a little bit, like thinking, and then I get off, and my wife's at home, sadly she couldn't come, and she sends me pictures of my daughter, and I'm like, oh my god. And she looked, for some reason in these pictures, she looked like a girl, not a baby anymore. She looked old, she was wearing overalls, she had a pumpkin patch, and I was like, fuck, she's growing up so fast, you know? And I like forgot about the Olympia, and I was just like thinking about her, and I was like, that's how important this is, that it can separate from that. So I've had a lot of moments like that that have really shifted my perception and taught me so much. So I really can't put into words how much it changes your life and continues to, day after day, having children, and just rearrange your priorities. Like what used to be stressful at work or this or that, I'm like, I don't even care. I'm still going to do what I can for it, but the attached, like it's a big deal that something is going to fail or fall, I'm not going to be here to do this, it matters so much less now. It puts everything into perspective of what's truly important.
We talked about 2 years ago on this very stage, and I asked you what was next, and as far as one day this bodybuilding journey of yours was going to end, and sure enough, a few months later, it did end. What is next for you? Obviously now we have Bum Energy, your affiliation with ESN, Gymshark, big brands, big on the podcast scene. Is there something on the horizon that we're unaware of that you can share with us as far as something that's going to help as far as leveraging the platform, the reach, and really the notoriety that you have amongst your fans from a business perspective, from a self-empowerment perspective? Is there anything on the horizon that you want to share with the audience, plans that you may have going forward?
Honestly, I still have no idea. I'm still kind of transitioning after stepping away from the Olympia, and I spent a long time focusing on one single goal, and I have the businesses, I have my family, I have a lot that's filling me up, and I do believe that there's another journey for me somewhere out there that might be even more beautiful and moving than winning 6 Olympias. But I spent so much time reading books and trying to learn this and add more to my life and consume and do more and be more, and I'm trying to learn to just be with life right now, enjoy the moments of what's already in my life, and let whatever might come to me in life come to me and not try and force anything. So I'm enjoying this season of life right now as it is. I'm not trying to add or change anything. I'm just trying to be as present and enjoyable as I can in the current moment. So you know as good as me what's going to come into my future, but I'm waiting with an open heart for it.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask the pivotal question, and that is, you announced your retirement. It was an iconic moment. You blew a kiss to the Olympia, the logo on the top of the stage, but then you competed the Prague Pro in the open class. Obviously, fueling speculation that had you won that show, what would your next move have been? Would you have competed at the Olympia? Well, we stand now about a year after that. Is that door slightly open, or have you transitioned to the next phase of your life?
That door was closed before I went. I knew win or lose at that show, I could have dominated that show and looked like I could have won the Olympia and Open, which I was far from it. But even if that had happened, I still would have stepped away and been done bodybuilding because the chapter had already been closed. So it's a wrap.